Today we're doing the newest record from Woods titled Strange to Explain. And the first track, as soon as my partner over here is done fiddling with his buddy, is Next to You in C. What do you think of this one?
Hi, I'm Fiddles with Buddy, and I would just like to say that the first album, the first track, rather, it was good. I liked it. It definitely made me, hopeful for the album. Up until this point, I think I've only heard those two songs you shared with me by Woods. It was Sun City Creeps and then that other kind of Western one. And I really like that song, so I was really looking forward to listening to this album. But yeah, so the song itself, just I think the lyrics just kind of are nice in that they set the scenery kind of well. The singer talks about polished glass, standing on the beach. There's this low key bass line and percussion that give the track a good backbone, and the voice is I just really like their voice. I like the sound. It's honestly just orgasmic to listen to, and it blends in with the main riff of the production. So yeah, I thought it was a good start.
Interesting. I thought that it was actually a pretty good opener. Wasn't amazing or anything, but I think the kind of very smooth, serene, maybe oceanside vibe of it, I really liked. I really did like the vocals on this one too. They're more kind of subdued, but also kind of also somewhat expressive, which is weird to say since the entire album has these high vocal deliveries across the entire thing. I really did like the mantra of the song, "Next to You" and the sea, with kind of the breezing instrumental. So I thought it was a good opener. Definitely caught my ear early on. The next one is "Where Do You Go When You Dream," which sounds like their answer to Billie Eilish's album "Where Do We Go When We All Fall Asleep" or something like that's called. Yeah. So what do you think of this one?
Yeah, so I really like this one as well. The lyrics honestly gave me chills when I was reading through them. It's not a depressing song. It just feels like they're pondering life in a really authentic but kind of brutal way. Some of my favorite lyrics are, "I see old friends when I sleep." I can only assume that, I'm guessing he's old and that he has friends that have passed away. So maybe he's talking about them, or maybe friends that have tragically passed away, before their time. But other lyrics, "Where did you go last night?" It's kind of taking that idea of where do you go when you dream, but applying it to, a partner or somebody that he's sleeping with. And he's just, I guess, saw them fall asleep. And so he wonders not just about where he goes when he sleeps, but also where other people go. And then also the last lyric I wanted to mention was, "It takes time to get things right," which I think is just definitely true. Just definitely words to live by. And then the latter half of the production for this song, it sounds like whatever instrument was used in Veritas Quo by Daft Punk combined with a flute, these bright piano chords, and some maracas. So it definitely kept me sonically engaged until the end of the song, even when the lyrics were over.
Yeah, I thought this was another pretty good one. I was very intrigued by the lyrics. They're kind of pondering what life is, what it means, how to really interpret it in certain ways. A couple lyrics on here I really did like. "Flower that your daughter holds, a new light you left inside, can't help but watch the garden grow, so slow as it takes time." So it's kind of just showing kind of even though we think time passes by, while we're living in the moment, things go on very slowly and take quite a long time. "I see old friends when I sleep. Where do you go? Where do you go when you dream?" I think that's an interesting question because they're not applying the song just to themselves. They're kind of asking the listener and anyone who's kind of consuming the song in any way. Kind of an interesting question. It's not really one where it's I'm singing along. It's where do I go when I dream? Maybe the chocolate factory or something like that. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I do think that at 6 minutes long, it was a bit too much. Mostly because I think the instrumental outro was okay, but I don't know. There really just wasn't a lot of progression in the song for me to really say I stuck with it. But I thought it was good overall. The next one is "Before They Pass By."
Word.
Is the call delayed?
So this track, it honestly didn't do
No, no.
What was that?
I thought the call was delayed a little bit because you took a bit to respond, so it's fine.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, there's a bit of a connection issue, but can you hear me okay now?
Okay. What did you say? Or yeah, no, I hear you.
Can, okay, word. Yeah, so the third track, Before They Pass By, this one didn't do too much for me. Like, I thought it was okay, but I don't think it really did anything differently from the last two tracks. So honestly, in my book, this one is just kind of an optional track.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. I think this is probably where the album really starts to become much more homogenized with its material, starting from here going on forward, in my opinion. A lot of the song ideas you can kind of hear what they're going for in the first 30 seconds of the tracks. There's no like sense of adventure like I had with their previous albums. But yeah, I thought this was okay. Vocal performance is all right. Instrumental was serviceable. Nothing mind blowing or anything. Next one is Can't Get Out.
So I was hopeful for this track, just because when the opening started, it was grungier at first. But when everything kicks in, the song just kind of sounds a little more upbeat than I really wanted it to be or expected it to be. It also feels repetitive lyrically, which is honestly just pretty disappointing at this point in the album, because I felt that there was a lot of depth in the first two tracks. I kind of liked, I didn't know if it was what they were going for, but I was kind of picking up this sort of, I guess, greater than us theme, with obviously considering where we go when we sleep, which is, I mean, you know, who knows? But also just kind of talking about the ocean in the first track. They're just kind of like these things that I feel like are, you know, vaguely philosophical that you can kind of just think about. But I guess I wanted that for, I mean, obviously the third track, but also the fourth track. And so the fact that the fourth track didn't really perform as well as I wanted to lyrically it was just aggravated by the fact that I really liked the lyrics of the first and second songs.
Yeah, this one I think lyrically is very repetitive, and there's not really a whole lot of instrumental depth to back it up or make that repetition much more salvageable. 5 minutes long, so I checked out like 2 minutes in. I was like, I know what to expect. They haven't really shown me anything else, and I was waiting to get surprised. Maybe because like in the fourth minute they'll bring like some screaming or some more traditional maybe ideas, or not traditional, more like out their ideas to their sound or to the specific composition to make it much more interesting, because that's kind of what I know the band for, but it never came. So by the time I was finished, it was like, huh? What? Huh? It's just I don't know. Yeah, I think lyrically it's pretty weak. Nothing really caught my ear. The melody gets really grating to hear once like you go past 2 minutes. Can't get out. It's like, and it's fine. I don't think it's a bad melody, but it's like it's not really given a backbone or like a sturdy enough surface for it to stand by itself. So yeah. Next one is the title track.
One more thing about Can't Get Out. there is a little bit of screaming right at the end. There's like an Easter egg where they just mess around on the piano. They play some words in reverse, and then there's just a little screech, and that's how the song ends.
No, yeah, I caught that, but by that time, I was just bored, and I didn't.
You're just done. Yeah.
Alrighty, what did you think of the title track?
Yes, sir. Well, this was the titular track. At this point in the album, it was two good ones, then two not so good ones. So I think this was the part in the album that was just gonna like really make it or break it for me. And I'm happy to say, I think it kind of pulled through. I liked how, I guess, the lyrics that we were kind of talking about before, just like these vague philosophical ones, kind of came back a little bit. It's still not as strong as the first or second track, but it's kind of tough for me to say that because when I was looking through Genius and just online, I couldn't really find lyrics for most of the songs. They had yet to be uploaded. Yeah. But I mean, like one that I picked out was Hold Your Tongue, It Might Never Come Back. So I guess when I think of that, I just think about our words can't just his vibes. I kind of liked how his sighing was offset by the like happy xylophone and guitar. But yeah, it was just like overall, I think a pleasing acoustic production for me.
Yeah, I thought it was serviceable. Probably one of the better tracks on here, even though by itself it's not like all that memorable. But I did like the xylophone. I like kind of like the jingly like undertones and melodies along the vocalizations of the track. It definitely felt like much more of an inspired track compared to what's, I think, probably the second half of this record, which is to me nowhere near as adventurous or as engaging as the first two songs. Which is ironic because I actually like the next track quite a lot. This one is The Void, and for the first 90 seconds, it's kind of this another acoustic folk rocky instrumental with not a whole lot of depth to it. And then right afterwards, there's like this brass that comes in. There's like more horns, like interesting horn compositions. However, by the time it gets interesting, the song's over, and we move on to the next track. So I thought it was a bit of a waste. But yeah, I think it's one of the better ones on here as well.
Yeah, this 2-minute track is the track that converted me officially into a nihilist. Yeah, The Void doesn't sound so bad. It kind of sounds like a vibe, to be honest. Yeah, there's just like this acoustic guitar finger picking, these harmonious ringing bells, and the maracas even make a comeback. Yeah, so I was for it. I liked it.
Cool, yeah. Next one is Just to Fall Asleep. How'd you feel this one?
I like this one not as much as Where Do You Go When You Dream. I think that's my favorite. The second one, Where Do You Go When You Dream, was my favorite overall on the album. But Just to Fall Asleep, I like the sound of it just because it felt like a lullaby. Production-wise, it's more bare bone. There's like this, like, I don't really know how to describe it.
Like this kind of vibrating effect on like two rocks just clanking against each other. It sounds like you're underwater, but it's not like that at all.
Yeah, I really have no way to describe it. But yeah, I mean, clearly you know what I'm talking about. I was with that sound. I like that one. And like guitar 1 is strumming chords while guitar 2 is just playing melodies. And just, oh man, his voice is just goddamn sublime. And I kind of like that it was kind of just bare bone and acoustic because that puts his voice kind of further into the spotlight. And he does a fair bit of just vocalizing or humming, and that was honestly just as good as when he's actually singing the lyrics. Yeah, I would totally fall asleep to this song.
Yeah, I think it kind of accomplishes that. On first listen, I wasn't interested. On the second one, I did kind of grow more of an appreciation for the primarily vocalized vocals, like. But I think at 6 minutes, it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me because I like the track overall, but I think in context with the record, I think a track like this where not a whole lot of ideas are being explored, this kind of seeds that in, because it's kind of continuing the trend we've seen with the last couple of tracks where they're nowhere near as adventurous. They're kind of comatose or very century to what they're trying to do. And I wouldn't necessarily say that, they need to experiment or anything, but I think in relation with the rest of the record and kind of what they are trying to accomplish, like this is much more of a chill, summery, kind of foresty album in comparison with the other works. But it's just, I don't know, I don't think it needed to be 6 minutes long, but I think I enjoyed what was here. Okay. Next one is Fell So Hard.
Yeah, so this song has some spacey sounds, this confident guitar, these drums, and then of course the signature falsetto. I thought this one was a bop. I don't really have much more to say other than that.
It was okay for me. I think there's much more of a guitar. There's much more like instrumental. There's much more of an instrumental palette here. I do agree, but there's not really a lot of interesting ideas that I can particularly say, oh man, this is what I'm going to come to Woods for. It kind of just sounds like any kind of psychedelic folk band would kind of make. So I think in that regard, I'm kind of judging it too harshly because I'm not actually judging the song. For the song, I think it was, again, all right. Nothing really popped out to me. Nothing got me by the ear. It was just like, yeah, it was an okay listen. I wouldn't turn it off, but I wouldn't want to turn it on either. Next one is Light of Day.
So this one, it had a bit of a dreamlike start and a resolute tone, but with this touch of longing. It feels like I think he's singing to a past love, or maybe so something along those lines. Hence that sort of tone, that sort of conflicted tone, like with mixed emotions. One of the lyrics I picked out was, "You can fill your void with an empty cup." I thought that was pretty funny, but honestly, I'd rather fill my void with their earlier track, "The Void."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of another track where it didn't really wow me. I did like kind of the more emphasized focus on the vocal melody here, and it being more thematic than it being kind of a device used to kind of like entertain people, because it actually felt like the tone of the track was much more embedded in this idea of like trying to not shit talk like a past love, but more like, hey, remember me, or this is what happened now, how are you like living through it. He says, now that you're under, and then I forgot what he says right after that, but I thought that was interesting. Instrumentally though, it's more of the same. I can't really say I was all that moved by it. That was alright. Next one is Be There Still.
Yeah, man. So it's funny you're mentioning it's like, kind of more of the same. But I think that same that you're talking about, like, I just dig it. I love it. For Be There Still, like, I'm just enjoying the sound. I don't really have any comment. Other than actually, I guess what the track made me think about was different kinds of love. So I think there's a sort of love, there's passionate love. I don't know what love exactly, like, I don't know what to call it. I don't know what love exactly was expressed on this track, but he comes across as very committed, and I personally find that really endearing. And thank God it wasn't sappy. I really hate those like sappy love songs. And even as the world, like, let me see. Yeah, so like some of my favorite lyrics were, even as the world changes, this guy's still, rather, can you come home soon? Like, I think he repeats that several times. Thinking about how even as the world changes, this guy is still there, and he will be too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually kind of like the kind of not floral, the horn melodies, or kind of maybe it's a string. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but like it kind of lingers throughout the entire song. Has this interesting sorrowful vibe to it. I think this is probably one track where I would probably go against my complaints of it being samey and say that I actually did enjoy the sound of this track. It felt very it felt like it was putting me in a different place rather than kind of keeping me still. Like here, it kind of sounds like I'm at like I'm at like a graveyard full of like flowers and stuff, as wind is bristling across the flowers, kind of setting this beautiful scenery with such a dark context. That's kind of what I really enjoyed about this track. Lyrically, I wasn't all that into it, mostly because I was just too enamored with the sound. So it's not like the vocals or anything were a negative for me on this track. It was just the sound itself was great for me. Okay, and that moves us into the last track, which is Weekend Wind.
Yeah, man, Weekend Wind. This was a 7-minute. Well, this was just essentially Woods doing a 7-minute jazz hands to finish the album. So yeah, by this time of the album, I've kind of enjoyed, or I've pretty enjoyed the last like couple songs and just kind of the sound that Woods has. And yeah, I was just grooving in my kitchen to Weekend Wind. Also, nice album cover. I like their album cover.
Nice. Yeah, I thought it was an enjoyable closer. I think it being an instrumental was kind of a bold risk. Not really a risk, but I think in relation with the rest of the album, it was an interesting way to finish it off with an instrumental, considering how many tracks are on here kind of talking about this topic of like strange to explain. like stuff they're talking about. It's not like something I can really put in a box and like, okay, this is what they're talking about. It's like stuff I can openly interpret. So I think going for like much more of like a jazzy, like a woodsy jazzy instrumental to finish off the record was interesting. I did like it overall. I really like when the trumpet like kind of kicks in and has these like reverb, not reverbing, but like when you play something in the distance and like it resonates throughout the entire like soundscape. Yeah, that's what I got, like distant horns and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that kind of aesthetic. Yeah, I thought it was a good closer. And that leads us to overall and rating. So, what'd you think?
Yes, sir. So again, I have no prior exposure except for the last two songs that you showed me. I have no exposure to Woods really. Yeah, I just overall I really like their sound. I liked what they went for in the first and second track, just kind of like those, thoughtful lyrics that just kind of I can, mull over in my own head and digest. Like you said, it's strange to explain. You just kind of have an open interpretation for it. You can think whatever you want. There was again some tracks that I didn't really enjoy, like the second and third one chiefly. But then I think the latter half of the album just had this sound that I really enjoyed. And again, I'm curious. Like, I definitely like Woods is another artist that I will follow, like 1975. And I think I actually really want to listen to their other discography just so I can compare the sound that they go for in this album compared to the last ones.
I highly recommend that.
Yeah. But so overall for me, I would give it honestly a 25. Maybe if I came into it having known kind of, the past sounds that they'd gone for, then maybe I wouldn't enjoy this as much. But since this is like my first taste of Woods, I'm like, oh yeah, like I like the sound they're going for, and I'm definitely going to listen to more. Big fan.
Yeah, well, I'm glad this was your first exposure to the band. And I think for a lot of people who are going to listen to this album, they'll probably enjoy it a lot more than I did. Me having context of what they've done before, this is probably their most lukewarm album to date to me. They weren't. Yeah, I know, but it's not bad. It's just for me, it didn't.
No. A lot. That's a good thing to hear, to be honest. Because like when you stumble onto something and you hear that this is the worst that they'll be, like in theory, then you're like, all right, well, it's only up from here. So no, I love that. Then
yeah,
I'm definitely going to check out the other stuff.
Yeah, I highly recommend. I think on those albums, they were much more ambitious with their sound. Here, I think they kind of settled down and really just try to refine one particular sound. So like here, it's much more like breezy, psychedelic kind of folk rock, as opposed to other records where they're trying out like brass and like mariachi bands, and like even on their album Echo Lake, which had these very creepy and kind of haunting folk songs that weren't necessarily haunting on the surface. When you hear the lyrics and when you hear the kind of sounds they're employing, the topics they're talking about, they were much more engaging in that aspect. Here, I think the first two songs were really good, but I think as the album went on, it was just incredibly spotty for me. Most of the songs I lost interest to because once I said before, I could literally predict what was going to happen in the song in the first 30 seconds. So for me, sure, I can say that about like most other artists who do like not commercial music, but more music that's not like tied towards being instrumental or being experimental or being more kind of out there. But I think for here, kind of the cycles they go through, the sound just didn't resonate with me a whole bunch. Mostly because I've heard them do much more interesting sounds with much more instrumental palettes and craft and technique. But yeah, I think if I rated this, I'd probably give it a 5. It wasn't bad, didn't blow me away. I thought it was average.
Can I just say, I think this is an interesting like dichotomy we've got going. I know in past albums we've mentioned maybe the distinct taste that each of us has, and you've kind of described yours as kind of looking for that experimental sound, that maybe avant-garde feel, whereas I prefer like the
avant-garde, but I would want it to be more kind of personal and a little bit more ambitious. It doesn't have to be like like, I don't know, like your grandma screaming over a drum riff or something, but I would want it to be I would want it to be something where I can feel like the band was really trying to like expand their sound, or maybe refine a past sound they've had.
Yeah, I was messaging my grandma today, so I mean, I might be able to get that done for you.
Hell yeah, brother! I'll get the drum riff ready.
Word.
Alrighty. Any other final words you want to say about this record?
That's great. Good stuff.
Cool, yeah. Oh, thank you for watching this review, and we will see you next time.
Peace.